Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Jack Chappell, I'm a game developer, and today we're going to be reacting to the game Control. And this is a game that I've heard really great things about, but I've only really seen a quick clip of it. So I'm really excited to see what it's all about, and well, here we go. Wield powerful supernatural abilities. Well, look at this. Oh, this looks like a beautiful game. Okay, we're gonna have to do a little bit of a breakdown here. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these moves here, actually. Okay, so let's first look at this. You're going from a walking stance. People don't think about this. You're going from walking to flying right here. I know that seems like really simple. You're probably just holding a button while playing this game. But what you're actually doing as a programmer is you have to go in and change all of the physics of your character. Now, there are some game engines like Unreal Engine where you can just change a few settings. You can change the physics of your character, with something like this within about an hour's work. But if they're building their own game engine, which I'm guessing they had to do for this game, this might be days of work just to have this one command go in. And then that's not including all of the animations and stuff, but going from walking and, having to think about the gravity and mass and interaction with objects in the landscape, whatever you're walking on, to all of a sudden breaking all of those rules, that is a little bit of programming that people don't necessarily think about. And then that's not even including all the flying controls and all of that too. So just changing the physics of your character is impressive enough, but then you have to do all the flying controls. And that's another thing too, is that when you're going from walking to flying, you also have to tell the game engine that you are now changing your controls entirely. So all of a sudden, going forward, all of a sudden you are able to navigate in this flying plane. Maybe your forward momentum may be going up. Maybe X is now going up or something like that. You have to actually change the controls using some programming skills. So that's something that people don't necessarily think about when making a game like this. It's really cool. And another thing like this too is when you're pointing at a character and you're using an ability on them, that's not too difficult to do. Once you do something like this once, all you're really doing is you are actually sending an invisible line called a line trace towards the character that you want the ability to affect. And then from there, it's actually not that difficult to actually do an ability like this. It's essentially a very high quality point and click ability. I love it. This looks so awesome right now. See, now this looks cool. We're gonna have to do a deeper dive into, I'm gonna take a look at the full game itself, but I wonder if you can actually just pick up the objects from the ground and use them as a shield. Now this is cool. Telekinesis is really cool too, actually. It's a little bit more difficult to implement than you would think, because telekinesis, it is kind of a point and click ability. So you point at an object, you essentially click a button, and then you can move it around, you wield it back, and then you can just chuck it again. But the way that they do this in the game, it feels so smooth. I don't know what it is. It feels like it feels very special just looking at this. Oh, wow. Oh, that looks really cool too. So you can customize your weapons and everything like that. Oh, is this an alien game? What is this game? Okay, let's dive into this. So you're in like the CIA office. Oh, it says right there, the Federal Bureau of Control. What do you know? The game's title is right there in the first, second that you start playing. I really like the environment for this because it seems very high quality. The lighting is really cool too, but it's empty enough where everything can be high quality, because the more stuff you put into a level, usually the lesser quality it has to be, because usually computers and systems can't handle having a ton of polygons and meshes and textures all in one place. But this looks great. Look at the reflections on the ground here. This looks super high quality. Now, I'm normally pretty good at guessing what game engines these kinds of games are, but this looks like an Unreal Engine game, but I would say that there's something just off about it, like the motion or the camera or something, where I would probably say this is, I'm guessing, a unique video game engine. We'll check at the end of this video here if I'm right. I'm guessing whoever made this game, I think it's 505 Games, I'm guessing they built this entire game engine from scratch. Something off about his hands there.
Elevator that way.
I don't know why the hands just seem a little weird to me.
You work for me. You can say I sent you.
Look at this high quality cutscene here. Wow, I was not expecting this high quality of a cutscene.
Be results of AWE's altered world events in our prime candidate program.
Live action video. So what is actually happening here, by the way, is this is actually super easy to do, and it's much preferred to animating this. So what you're actually doing is that screen right there is kind of just like its own in-game green screen, and then they're just plopping an actual video file down onto it. This is a really efficient way for someone to make a scene with a bunch of characters and complex animations and maybe even potentially dialogue without having to put in weeks and weeks and weeks of work. You could potentially just shoot this video here, what might take a few days, and then just plop it right onto the screen right here. So it saves a lot of time, and in this case, it looks good so far. So good work.
A key component in our prime candidate program. Come out of that Russian roulette a winner, and you're it. Lose, and you're, well, fired. Thank you. I'm Dr. Darling, Head of Research, Federal Bureau of Control.
A little bit of humor. I like it. Oh, so a baddie just popped up there? And we're just going to pop him. So another thing too here, see how that brick just came up here, that platform just raised up? That's a trigger box, meaning that when a level changes in any way, shape, or form, the landscape or anything within the landscape, so anything, I'm guessing that they did their own thing here, but when anything changes on the level that you are playing in, it's usually because of something called a trigger box, meaning that some event has to occur in order for the level to change. And so in this case, there's probably one of two things that happened here, one of which was either you had to kill the bad guy in order for the platform to raise, or you had to jump up onto the platform. Or you had to get close to the platform, in order for it to raise up. So trigger boxes are just invisible boxes and event boxes that something has to happen for you to progress or for the level to change. So she got a gun? We're in this, like, what world are we in here? What's happening here?
Now I have a gun.
And see, another event box happened here, another trigger box where you picked up the gun after the cutscene, the landscape changes. Alright, shooting mechanic. I wasn't quite expecting a shooting mechanic. I know I saw the gun before, but alright, so this is kind of a third-person shooter too, as well, with superpowers. That sounds cool. So we're quite a bit into this game here, and a few things I've noticed that are maybe some negatives that I've seen so far, actually, are the setting lighting is a little bit weird in some of these levels. Actually, like right now, it just seems a little bit too grainy, kind of for my liking, a little bit too much exposure. That's just my opinion. If you guys differ, let me know. There are some really cool mechanics here, like those dashes, flying and stuff, but so far we're quite a bit into this game, actually. There's not as much depth to the abilities as I thought that there would be. So far, there's really a couple shooting mechanics and a couple ability mechanics. I thought we'd see a little bit more by now, but I could be wrong. We still have a ways to go. One of the things I noticed too is actually they pay attention to detail in regards to the particles. I don't know if you noticed this, but you can see the smoke coming off the gun, and those are particle effects. Someone must have specifically done that, and they each have their own physics, which is really cool. I think that my guess now, after seeing this specifically, is that they must have built their own engine. Based on how the smoke and everything's performing here, I'm guessing this has to be their own engine for sure now. But yeah, look at this. Look at the smoke coming off of the gun, smoke coming off of the environment. This is all real stuff you don't normally see in a lot of games, specifically shooters and third-person shooters. Attention to particle physics, really cool. Like right there, more particle physics. So, oh man. This game so far gets like an A in particle physics. Might be one of the best ones I've seen in quite a while. And you know what, another thing I noticed here too actually is the lack of a HUD. So heads-up display. Normally your screen in third-person games, you know, tons of HUD stuff, but in this it's really minimalist. I mean, all you really got is your health bar. I guess some experience might occasionally pop up, and you got your quest. And that's really it. Normally your screen is kind of, you know, at least about a quarter of your screen, it has some HUD somewhere on it. You know, you have maybe your map in the corner, your quest up top, you know, 3 bars or 4 bars experience. Maybe you have your level, maybe you have the enemy HUD, which is quite big, but everything here is minimalist, it's clean, it's very, it's unique, I would say, for a third-person game. Third-person single-player game specifically, usually they have bigger HUDs that kind of envelop the screen. This one, it's minimalist. So that's just another thing I noticed from the feel of this game so far. And look, even right now, you really don't have a HUD. You're still playing as the character right now, but all you have is your quest. That's it. That's it. So it's really cool. I like it. All right, now we got some more abilities. We're starting to add a little bit more depth to the abilities and what you can do. So we have that like kind of the thing that freezes them. We got a little bit more of a machine gun, I guess, now. So we're starting to see some depth come to this game here, because that's one of the fears that I have with third-person games that are heavy story, heavy graphics, is sometimes there's not enough depth to the mechanics. But so far, this one, it's starting to add some depth here. It's obviously like the games with the depth that I like super amounts of depth. I like the Skyrim types of games, which is, it's not sustainable. You need giant studios. This is not a, I'm guessing this is not a Bethesda or a giant studio like that has infinite resources to do all this. But this looks really good. Looks like really solid with what they have so far. Yeah, however, so far I'm not as enveloped in this story as I thought I would be. It's a good story. It's solid. It's unique. I like it, but I'm not as like pumped for it. Like a story to me, obviously, I always mention this in every video. Like I like the God of War, very solid story, a lot about relationships, son and father, and all this stuff. I do like this story. It's unique. It's not my favorite though, so that's a little bit of a negative for me. But so far, I mean, this game has so many positives, which are, it's difficult. I mean, one thing that people don't think about, I'll just pause for a second here, is that making a game involves so much stuff. You have to have every single piece of creativity from different genres. You have to write a story, so you have to be a good writer. You have to write dialogue, so that's another whole part of writing. You have to have 3D designer, so there's physical art. You have to have concept art, illustrations. You have to do mechanics, programming. There's so many things. Music, sound effects. Every single piece of art that you can think of in the world goes into making a video game. And there's so many complicated things that, sometimes some are weaker than others, but, when you combine them, the hopes are that they all combine well enough where it's fluid, and you just pray that people like it. And in a game like this, it's very well put together. I do like most aspects of this a lot. I would not consider this so far to be one of my favorite games that I've seen. But I do respect and I love the originality. I do like it a lot. So
Trench told me to find you.
I know a lot of you always dislike me when I say I don't like parts of a video game. But guess what? I'm kind of, I like to critique some things about games. That's kind of what I do. Wow, I like the destructible environments. Look at this. That's right. I didn't really pick up on this earlier. So yeah, there's tons of destructible environments that you can pick up and throw, which is what I was hoping for. So that's really cool. That's really difficult to do. There's really only a few game engines that can really handle this on a large scale. Unreal Engine is just starting to do that. But when you think about it, when you put an object into a game like a rock or a person or anything like that, it would be very difficult for you to also put into the game, what if they were shot this way? You could import this broken mesh, this broken part of it. If they were shot from this angle, how do we make it broken so that the player can pick up this? If it's an explosion and the whole thing blows up into little pieces, should we put that into the game? And you can't do that at scale. What you have to do is implement a way for, if an explosion hits this with this impact, have the mesh turn into a bunch of little meshes. And it's really difficult to put that into a game. And again, this is really cool that we're seeing this on a large scale in this game. It's, again, some of the things, the polygons aren't as sharp as I'd like them to be. But again, the fact that you can destroy almost anything in this game, pick it up, use it as a shield, or chuck it, or smoke pops out, or, slow down time, or all this stuff, have it all interact with each other. That's one of the things that I give props to Breath of the Wild for, is that they have an interactable environment, but this seems to be on a whole different scale. You can blow a lot of this stuff up, pick it up, and throw it. That is very difficult to do, because what you're pretty much doing, too, is that you're also telling the engine, split this object into 3 different objects and have them all be their own things that someone can pick up. It's hard to explain the complexity of that, but that's a big positive for this game for me now, so really, really cool. And also another thing too that I kind of mentioned earlier is that when you're picking up an object, like we're seeing right now, is that you're also changing the physics of that object. meaning that that object is going from a, obeys gravity, has a certain amount of mass so that when it interacts with something, it gets knocked over. When you grab it, all of a sudden you're telling it, disobey all the physics. You have to override everything that you did earlier, and then when you throw it, you have to give physics back to it. So it's really interesting how they did this. It's more complicated actually than I might have initially thought it was. Can I mention one more thing too about how smooth the animation transitions are in this game? I mean, I haven't really seen a clunky animation yet. Everything, you can go from one ability to the next, and it all seems very smooth. And so when you're going from like having the gun or telekinesis and chucking something to holding the gun again, you actually have to do this thing called animation blending, which is a whole kind of programming thing in itself, where you have two sets of animations, and then you have to tell an algorithm to go from the end of the telekinesis one, what would a normal human being do to go from the telekinesis like this to holding the gun like this. Because you don't go through frame by frame and make sure every animation is exactly perfect for the transition. What you do is you tell an algorithm to figure it out for itself, and everything looks really smooth so far in this game with in terms of animation blending. And especially considering how the laws of physics just seem to change second by second, and that there hasn't been any animation clunkiness. That's, oh my god, that's very hard to do. Because now when you think about it, actually, if you're flying and you have to, let's say you're flying and you have to pick up someone with telekinesis, there's a lot of physics involved in that. You would expect some sort of lag. I mean, for example, when you're going from flying, when you're walking, it's just, you're really going in one or two dimensions. You're going forward or side to side or backwards. It's really simple for a computer to handle. Same with when there's non-flying enemies. But all of a sudden, you got flying enemies, you got flying people, they're all going in 3 dimensions. All of a sudden, the physics is an order of magnitude harder because they can go up or down. There's a lot of things you have to think about in this game. I mean, the physics in this game, oh man, this might be a leap similar to like Portal in terms of, not Portal maybe, but the physics in this game are the best I've seen this year, for sure. I mean, it's just all the stuff that I'm thinking about programming now, and all the work that would have to go into actually doing all the math and the algorithms involved in this. I mean, oh man, they got to use this engine. They must have spent, I guess, a flat out, a dozen programmers must have spent a year just on the engine. Maybe even more than that. Like, not even building the characters, not building anything regarding the game, just the engine for this game, I'm guessing probably took at least a decent team a whole year, maybe 2 years to do, because this looks pretty complicated. And again, yeah, like as we're just going through this game, it gets more and more complicated in regards to the mechanics, and it's earning a lot more of my respect. It's adding a lot more depth to the game that I didn't think that was there in the first place.
Earlier. This is my mess to clean up. My fight. No one else's. I am the director.
Alright, you know what? The last half of the story I liked a lot. Okay, yeah, this is cool. This is cool.
Hello, this is Dr. Casper Darling. I have a classified message for...
Wow, look at the detail to the eyes. Did you see that? See, one of there's a couple of things that are really tough to do in regards to animation. Eyes and lips are the two toughest, and tongue too, so just the mouth and the eyes. But look at how the eyes just slightly change, just like human eyes. Just like human eyes. Two separate words, not human eyes. But look at how they slightly change in what they're looking at. Just slight difference in focus. Slight changes like that. Look at that. It's stuff like that which is... it's one of those things that you notice as a game developer, which is, okay, that looks a little bit more human. They could have just easily made her just look straight ahead with some, maybe mild change, like one turn of the eyes, but no. They didn't. That was really cool. Good animation there. And, wow, we're getting into some really cool physics here. Wow. Huh. This final fight does not seem as much of a final fight. Maybe this isn't the final fight. This doesn't seem like a final boss battle. Usually there's one big giant baddie you have to beat at the end here. And it, so far, I guess maybe we're gonna fight Dylan here at the very end, but we're getting really close here to the end, so I'm hoping that there's some sort of really cool physics battle at the end.
And we're in this together. You and I.
All right. Okay. That was cool. That was really cool. So that was pretty cool, actually. It's a solid game. It's not one of my favorites, but I can understand why it's a Game of the Year nomination. The physics was awesome. Reflection was really good. There's a lot of really cool mechanics in there, which are not typical at all for a third-person game here. And I was just kind of browsing through this, actually, a little bit here. So this is a not a small studio, but apparently this company, Remedy Entertainment, it's their first game since their IPO in 2017 and since they separated from Microsoft. I didn't know any of this, actually. I just read into it. They wanted to keep costs low. They wanted to make a quick game. Wanted to keep time low. So their other games, Alan Quake and Quantum Break, which took 7 to 5 years to complete respectively. Control was completed within 3 years. $30 million. What's GB? All right, so I'm guessing GB is just pounds because, I can't get a direct answer from Google from that. But if it's pounds, then that's like, what, 40 million bucks or something like that. So it's lower than the typical cost of AAA games. Yep, by a lot. AAA games, we're talking, 50, 100 million in some cases. Some cases I've seen higher. I guess Rockstar's might be higher too in Call of Duties, maybe. But yeah, this is for a studio that it's their first game for being on their own, and they just wanted to make a quick, really good, high-quality game. When you take that into account too, then this is fantastic as well. Like, it's a whole different level up here. And also another thing too here, after reading this a little bit, was actually, I was correct, they made their own game engine for this game, and they replaced their Havoc physics engine with PhysX. I think PhysX is actually part of Unreal's, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, though. And improve the artificial intelligence for enemies to be able to take advantage of these changes. Yeah, so one of the goals of their game, they flat out said here, they wanted to make a narrow-focused game that's replayable, where all objects were interactable, all environment objects were interactable, so the player can use as weapon or defense or whatever it is. So that's something that I picked up from this game too. That was one of the coolest aspects of it, was everything seemed very interactable and destructible. And that's tough, and that's kind of a new thing that's really been taking off the last few years, because now we actually have computers and consoles that are able to handle those complex calculations that come with destructible environments. One more cool Easter egg here is actually that it says here, Control represents one of the first major games released after the introduction of graphics cards that support ray tracing. So pretty much, and it's considered to be the first game with a nearly full implementation of all possible ray tracing RTX features. Wow, so that's if you don't know, ray tracing is it takes up a lot of your graphical computing power, a ton. And when I was making 3D models and animations back in the day for YouTube videos on my old science channel, actually, was that one of the things that I found was that when you went to ray tracing, your render times would significantly increase. It's a lot harder on your computer to compute those. Ray tracing is just making higher quality light and shadows and all that stuff. That's all it is. And to see that this game was one of the first ones to implement that fully into the game, that's really cool. So my overall thoughts on Control is that fantastic game, innovative, not my favorite, maybe not my favorite of this year, but so innovative that I really hope that, they could potentially, because this game was so successful, they could take another step up next year, or maybe not next year, in the next few years. And taking a look at their history since Control came out, it looks like the company's doing very well. They have doubled in value since, I guess, the game came out early this year. So everything looks real good for them. Hopefully, they can add a bigger team next year. Only thing I'd like to see a little bit more of. Now, there's a lot of minor things you could pick apart with any game, But the only thing that I personally would like to see more from this game is a little bit more depth to the game. A little bit more different kinds of abilities you can put in. I get it, the abilities you do have involve a lot of strategy, very complicated. I would like to see a little bit more personally. But overall, again, this isn't a review, but maybe I can start reviewing the games. If I were to give a rating to this game, I'd probably give it somewhere around a 9. It's not perfect, but it is so good that it's worth the go. Between an 8.5 and a 9. Like, I can see why it's a game of the year, but it's not one of my favorites that I've ever seen. So that's my opinion. What do you guys think about Control? Let me know in the comments down below. Did you guys enjoy this? Also, check out I have a ton of other React videos, gaming developer React videos, so go check those out. I'll be reacting to some more games in the next week or two. I'm hoping to do 2 of these a week. And leave a comment down below. I'm doing Call of Duty next because that is what you guys requested in the comments. Do Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the new one. That's what I'm going to do. And it should be the next one. I have a bunch more that I wanted to do. So please check out my other ones in the playlist down below. And as for update on my game and my game developer vlogs, that's kind of a whole different story here. I don't know if you guys want to hear this, actually. So I'm keeping going with the game. But there's something else that kind of popped up, and I'll be doing some different kind of devlogs on. I'm pretty much what I'm doing. Just to summarize quickly, is that my game developer stuff is that the 3D open world concept is very good. I got very far. I'm going to finish that game. I've put it to the side for now because there's another game in the same universe that I can build that I think can be quite cool, and it's a game that I can build a lot quicker, and I'm having so much fun with building right now. It's in the same universe, so I'm going to tie it all together on a nice bow, and I'll be showing you guys some updates hopefully in the next few weeks, hopefully in the next month. I've been working on it a lot the past couple of weeks, so and I've gotten quite a bit of ground covered. So that's all. Check out my next video and subscribe and like and all that stuff. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.